And just hello, everyone. Welcome back to Real Talk with the Sexperts. As mentioned, I'm just so happy to see familiar faces, returning guests, new guests as well. So thanks so much for being here tonight. And this evening, we're talking all about modern dating. And I think there can be a lot of mixed feelings that come up when we think about contemporary dating. And I invite you, even now, if you're open to it, to share even one word or phrase that comes up for you. It could be a feeling, an experience, or just anything that comes to mind when you think of dating. And especially now in the age of dating apps, AI, ghosting, catfishing, you name it, there can be a lot of challenges when it comes to just navigating emotional, cultural, and these psychological elements. So we're here to address your questions you've submitted in advance. As always, you can ask those questions in the chat at any time. We'll also be sharing resources along the way. And most of you already know me, but for those of you that don't, I'm Jamie Azar, she, her, founder of Real Talk with the Sexperts and founder of Erotic Expressions, which is my own private practice where I work with individuals and partners plus to turn shame off, turn pleasure on, and help folks navigate the complexities of desire, intimacy, sex, and communication beyond pressure, expectations, and norms. So I'm going to pass the mic over to James Mosley, who will introduce themselves, and panelists, the order of introductions is in that chat.
Hi, everybody. I'm James. As Jamie just said, I am basically just kind of like a sex nerd, I guess. I'm currently a MED human sexuality student, and I'm working on like my PhD to hopefully be a professor and a sex researcher at some point. I try to focus on like non-monogamous societies, modern and ancient, and just so different social structures of different societies like patriarchy and matriarchies. And I just share a multitude of content online under Poly Lone Ranger, and some of it is educational, some of it is me just being a dipshit, and it's just whatever I feel like. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
This is a great segue into my intro because I describe my content as professionally shitposting about sex. Hi, I'm Lacey Bond. I go by Intimacy Lacey on the internet. Um, I am a sex coach. I live in LA, and I work a lot with purity culture survivors, kinksters. It's funny how often those two things line up. Polyamorous folks, and queermos who come out later in life and are experiencing second adolescence, because that's a whole ride. Who's next?
Sasha, I think Sasha's up
Oh,
next.
sorry. It's me next. I was just like thinking about I'm Sasha, Sasha Thomas. My handle is Unforbidden Lifestyle. I'm a intimacy coach specifically for non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, but I'm also consider myself a well-seasoned uh, polyamorous woman, also a widow and a successful lover and partner and uh, friend to everyone that's in my orbit. Who's next?
I think
Thanks, Sasha.
Jerry.
We're going to have Jerry, Wayne, and
Yeah,
Leah.
yeah, Jerry's next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jerry St. Louis. I'm not from St. Louis. I'm from a far worse place. I'm from Florida. I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm a certified sex therapist, sex educator. I just launched a podcast called The Queer and Kinky Couch. Please follow it on YouTube. We'll be on Apple and streaming services within the next month. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I am the person who lives outside of the proverbial box. I identify as queer. And yeah. And Lacey, yes, we need to talk about that because we would love to have you.
All right, hey everyone, I'm Wayne. I'm out here in Los Angeles, originally from DC, so that's why I applauded because Jerry's in my hometown. Born and raised. I am a sex intimacy relationship coach specializing in non-monogamy. Tr Out here just trying to help people work through relationships and normalizing the things that don't feel normal. Who is next?
Is it my turn? Is it? Am I it? Am I the last
Yeah,
one?
You're
Yes.
Okay,
in.
can y'all hear me? You can hear me. Okay. I'm in the car, I'm making it work. Don't even get me started. So I I am a poly life coach, intimacy expert. I've been doing it for many years. I've been polyamorous for 2 decades now. It's a lot. It is rough. Uh, and it's also hard to juggle everything being poly. So, and I books that are on dating. I'm ready for it. Don't impress me now to depress me later. So we'll get into that later. But yes, I do it all. I've seen it all. That's all.
Thanks, Leah. Yeah, and I'm hearing from folks some of the words or phrases that came to minds when they think of dating is frustrating, love bombing, complex. Exhaustion comes up a couple times. Absolutely. Thanks for
Yes.
sharing. And people identifying with the fact that we've got some sex nerds in the chat too. So we're all in good company here. I'm loving the energy here today. Let's jump right in. So the first question we received from our guests here today. How do you approach someone after a few dates to find out if this is long-term or casual? James, do you want to kick us off here?
Yeah, and I hope I can add some value to this question, but I'm just so I'm very neurodivergent, right? I don't think in a very typical manner. I'm very analytical. So usually I know right out the gate before I even meet up for coffee if this is going to be casual or long term because it's usually in my dating bio. I think what exactly I'm looking for. So if they swipe right on me and in my dating bio I said I'm looking for long term, then I'm assuming they're looking for long term, but when I meet up for like coffee or something like that, I'm usually asking like long term commitment questions like, how do you deal with conflict like in a relationship? Do you see yourself as a collaborator or do you get very overwhelmed very quickly? Just certain questions. And the same goes if I'm just meeting up uh to put it lightly, well, to put it plainly, fuck, then then I'm usually like asking certain questions that decipher that too. So I'm just very like on the nose with it, and I usually know before I'm meeting up, but that's just me.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is being really direct, upfront, transparent, even disclosing what you're looking for in your bio, and then prioritizing those conversations kind of at the beginning of things just for clarity. And again, we can always revisit those, but just to be transparent and see, are we sharing the same values and same ideals, and what are we looking for? Yeah, Jerry, thanks.
Also to piggyback on what Jane was saying, I think that, sometimes we don't know we can be in between. And something can be like, oh, it's really good sex, and then you're smart and you're funny. And it's like, okay, well, let's see if we want something more. I always say, ask yourself first, do you want something more or do you just like this person? Because those are two completely different things. Like you can like someone and not want anything more before you invite them to extend something. And then you figure out what you want from there.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for adding. So checking in with yourself first, absolutely. I see from the chat too, someone asks their partners or whoever they're meeting to fill in a non-escalator relationship menu during the first chat and circle back on it after a few dates. If there's a document for this
There is.
non-escalator,
Yeah, I have this. I'm gonna pull it right now.
chat. Oh, interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
I
Feel free
got
to
you.
elaborate in the chat. Either Lacey, feel free to share if you know about that resource, kind of what that looks like and how that might be helpful for folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's rad. Actually, I can screen share if that's cool. I think I have the power. I
Yeah, why
do.
not?
Share. Okay, yeah, this is a really cool tool. This is this is where I like to get a little autistic about my relationships. I'm like, we're gonna define some stuff very, very, very clearly. So, it has categories of different spheres of connection and intimacy. The relationship escalator is kind of the societal script that's kind of not usually explicitly talked about, but it's that expectation that like you get to know someone, you date them, you maybe date casually, then seriously, maybe you move in, you get married, you have kids, you buy a house. It's this like ongoing upgoing thing. But in a lot of non-monogamous relationships, we've really deconstructed how relating like works and realized like, okay, like I have like needs in this area that I, want to share or collaborate with a partner on. So this is a little bit blurry, but like under commitment, you've got like marriage. Is that something you're looking for? Like this is a good like, I forget it was Jerry or James who was talking about like, I just like am very direct up front. Like, what is this about? Is this long term or not? Like some people who are solo poly, like absolutely will not cohabit with a partner. Other people are totally fine with it. So there are several categories where you can kind of both look at this and mark up the areas that like you are open to having in a relationship, or not. And then it's a conversation. So you don't just like hand it to them like this is what we're doing. It's like these are my tastes. This is what I'm hungry for. Are you hungry for the same things? So it's a little blurry, but we've got like emotional intimacy, expressing happiness and joy, offering support during hard times. Social integration includes like meeting your partner's partners, family, children, presenting as a couple in public or not. Quality time, like regularly scheduled time together, date nights, overnight sleepovers, communication, like whether you want to be like texting all the time, having phone or video calls, what you're comfortable talking about, like whether you want to be talking about family, partners, relationships, politics. Physical intimacy is a big one. Physical affection, PDA. Orgasms. Do you want that in your relationship? There are plenty of ace people for whom physical intimacy is only like sensual or like non-sexual, and that's totally valid. So it's a really cool little menu, and they've got, you can mark up must have, like to have, maybe, and off limits. I usually just kind of highlight the ones that I want and send it to a partner, because that's just easier. But this is the menu. I love that someone else knows about this.
I love, like, I need, and we've talked about here, and I know some of us use yes, no, maybe lists with our clients, but that's more for sexual and erotic based activities. And this is more of a yes, no, maybe for values. And yeah, I think it's great. And I'm glad folks are asking, like, how might you introduce that? Or you address that, Lacey, as well as, finding a way to invite people into, completing this and sharing it, right? Instead of just being like, hey, like, I need you to fill out this form before we get together. Some people, that might not be the right like move for some people. So I'm hearing making it more of an invitation. Some people are saying in the chat they color code it and then superpose their partners or the other person's responses, and it appears clearly where they differ. So it orients the conversation about the differences. So I absolutely love that. Thanks, Lacey, for sharing your screen and sharing that with us. And so yeah, like finding the balance too between finding out if it's long-term and casual without putting the pressure of the escalation on that as well is what I'm hearing. Anyone want to share anything else around this first question? Panelists, feel free to give me a raised hand. Otherwise, we're going to move to the next question. Awesome. Awesome. Good stuff. All right. So the next question that folks submitted, this person is wondering, how do you handle two of your partners having issues with each other and both of them coming to you about it? So how do you handle two of your partners having issues with each other and both of them coming to you about it? Jerry, do you want to hop in on this one?
Yes. What one piece of advice that I have often give, or I would often give, is like listening to your partner, listening to both of them, and one, asking them what they need. Do they just need a listening ear, or do they need feedback? And then going from there. Now, if they need feedback, then we have to think about like what kind of feedback are you needing? Is like the issue with the partnership, with the other partner, is it going to affect like you all three spending time together? Like, does it mean that one person will not be able to kind of visit while the other person is there? Is there a person who's a nesting partner? And is there a hierarchy in this relationship? Like, there's a lot of things to kind of consider. And honestly, if everybody's doing solo poly, is this too overstimulating for you? If these two partners are having issues with each other, is it too overstimulating for you to keep the both of them? Maybe, going and dealing with it on your own. I think sometimes it's nice to be able to try to facilitate a conversation between the two, but if it's, not if you're not just not able to do it, then you just can't. Not everybody has that bone or that gene to be able to do those things.
Yeah, thanks for adding that. I think it's really helpful. The active listening piece of just making sure, like, feeling heard, I think is a big piece of that, getting their feedback. And you had said kind of evaluating how, their asks or whatever the problems are might impact the relationships. And to also check in, and I know we've talked about this on former talks, like for a hinge partner to check in with their capacity and the impact that possible triangulation might have on them as well. Wayne, what's coming up for you?
So I don't want to repeat anything that Jerry. So I agree with all the things that Jerry said, and I would add on to it. Just so for myself, because I've experienced it in having two partners, I think that sometimes I think it may be easier to come to the hinge to complain, right? Because and so if possible, I suggest always to have the two of them have that conversation between each other, because I think that it alleviates a lot of the kind of like the energy that may be brought into it, right? We're going to, and hopefully that we're dealing with people who have a little bit more emotional intelligence about themselves and in that nature. So we're not speaking to the people outside of that, right? We're not speaking to the people, whoever, whatever. We're speaking to and so I think that just them two being able to have that conversation, I think that solves a lot of the issues. And now we get to humanize the other person, right? Because a lot of times it becomes about ourselves and all the things that we're going through and we're feeling, and we're not thinking about the other person. So I think that being able to have that conversation is so helpful, right? I think it helps to disarm a lot of the tension and the irritation, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Sasha, what's coming up for you around this?
So yeah, coming from the person that had an issue with my hinge partner's other person. I had an issue. I think we both had issues with each other. Um, but like Wayne said, sometimes that hinge partner, they feel a lot of pressure, like a lot of pressure. And it really takes everyone to make the dynamic work. And so what I found is I had to step back and say, how much of this am I placing the responsibility on that hinge partner in the middle, and step back and say, how much of responsibility do I have to take because I'm part of it. Sometimes you're the other partner, you don't feel like it's sometimes you're part of that whole dynamic, but you are. And so I really had to like step back myself and then ask myself, like, how much responsibility am I putting on this hinge partner to take care of me and all the things, all the issues that I have. And unfortunately, it wasn't a situation where I could really go to the other person and have a talk. Like, we weren't going to be able to do that. And I found that the less pressure and responsibility that I placed on my partner, my hinge partner, the easier it was for it to be managed, because then they weren't being pulled, in two different directions, and it's so difficult for them to manage. So I had to step back, and also I just have the compassion for my partner and what they were going through, because I love them and I want them to be happy and fulfilled. And so that's coming from me, the other partner that had the issue, doing a lot of work for myself. So just knowing that you are a part of that dynamic, whether you're in communication with the other partner or not, you still affect it in some way and have a responsibility to the dynamic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for
It,
sharing. And that is
it,
powerful work, like to do that work of self-awareness and what is my role in this and what way can I take accountability? Wayne, are you addressing the question?
yeah, because I was just gonna
Yeah,
say, like,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
My I always like I tend to ask, like, what is my resistance to having a conversation? Is it me? Because if it's the other person, then that's a different conversation. But if it's me, like, what is my resistance? Why am I not wanting to have this conversation? Why am I? What's holding me back? Like, is it whatever it is? Like, again, checking in with myself and trying to figure out, why am I showing up in this way? Again, now if it's the other person, like, like, that's a conversation that you might want to have with your hinge for sure. Like, hey, look, this person is doing these things. Like, how can now it starts to fall on the hinge because this person's being difficult or whatever the case, or causing whatever thing is. Then now it is the response. It does fall on the hinge to handle that situation or to handle that part of it.
Yeah, so checking in with the reasons you may not want to engage in that conversation as well. And again, we can respect that person's no if it ends up remaining a no. But what I'm hearing from you is it can be helpful data for us as well to examine, well, why might we not want to engage in that conversation? Again, everyone's relationship is different too. Good. I love it. And anything else coming up? for anyone else? James, I see a light bulb moment, or what's going on there? I haven't seen that emoji. I'm curious.
Yeah, that was just me processing what
I
everybody was
love
saying.
it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, thanks for everyone who submitted that question. And if there's any other lingering thoughts, comments, we didn't address something, feel free to elaborate in the chat. All right. So we've kind of addressed, I think, some of the ways that we encourage people to communicate when dating, like being upfront, direct, and honest and transparent, whether that's, front loading in your bio or in the first couple dates. This person had asked, are there like the best ways to communicate when dating? So is there anything else you guys would add to that and that we haven't talked about yet? Like, what are the best ways to communicate when dating? Is there one best way? What other advice would you have around this that we haven't addressed yet? Jerry, what's coming up for you?
So I work with quite a bit of people who have disabilities, both visible and invisible. And so, and honestly, people who don't have disabilities, sometimes we just have to learn what communication looks like for us, what works best for us in that relation. Sometimes it's like taking a break before we have a deep conversation. Sometimes it's like, hey, can we say we have to have a conversation and then we have a conversation an hour after because I need time to process? Or sometimes we have a conversation and then allow me some time to process. It's really about meeting the person where they are and figuring out what communication style works best for you. If there is something that you run into, if there's a snag, if there's an argument, if there's something, then going to that where that argument happened and figuring out, okay, what was happening? What do you think made us have that argument? And figuring out how we can communicate in a way that doesn't lead us to the point and being okay with making mistakes until you get it right.
Yeah, thanks. That's really helpful. Leah and then Sasha.
I was going to say, out of my little book, I have a lot of rules and evaluation sections. And so after the first few dates, if you're not getting answered questions and the person's kind of dancing around it, it's time to move on. Like, we're not going to stick around for the clown parade. Okay, you're going to be the main event. It's time to move on. Like, they're not really giving you answers about this. They're not really giving you answers about that. Like, you're asking them, you're not getting clear communication. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm not going to keep asking the same question 50 different ways. You know, like, do you want this to be long term? Do you see something? Like, what do you even want out of this? Are you looking for just a physical hookup? Are you looking for long term? Are you, non-monogamous? Are you, I do a lot of poly people, so I do a lot of screening up front. If you're monogamous, it's I'm not gonna say it's a hard path, but it's a lot of training. It's a lot of things you have to endure. So there's regular dating and then there's polyamorous dating, which is it's different. It's definitely different. So I'll throw that in there. Just don't just I feel like life is short. We've only got one life. And so all this dancing around and not getting to the point, do you like me? I like you. Okay. Do you want to be, just kind of put it out there. And we don't love our partners more than ourselves. We love ourselves first. So keep that in mind when you're dating. We're trying to give so much of ourselves. Like, don't give all of yourself away. So that's what I would like to add.
Yeah. So Jerry was kind of coming in with like, there's no one way to communicate, right? Like, it's going to be different depending on the person you're with and learning how to meet them where they are and based on their needs and finding their unique style. Leah, you're kind of pointing out maybe some of the quote unquote red flags we might look for at the beginning, right? When people are kind of dancing around our questions or just being, not being direct and transparent with us. And also bringing in another important point, which is, again, the importance of, taking care of ourselves and prioritizing, ourselves in the process and making sure we have what it takes to show up fully as well for others. Sasha, what would you add to this as well?
I would add, because I know there's a lot of talk just like what kind of communication style, and sometimes that's difficult to even say, like, I don't know what kind of communication style that I have. Sometimes I wonder, like, what is my communication style? Sometimes it just depends on the person that I'm, sitting in front of. But I know one thing that I can sometimes develop is like work on the emotions that I feel more than just like my communication style. So a lot of times I think like when I'm dating or, person I'm choosing to engage with, what type of emotion do I need to feel like I'm successful or feeling safe in this? And then I kind of think about two emotions that I like to feel. And then what are two more emotions that make me feel like unsafe or uncomfortable? And what are identify those and then just kind of like prioritize them. So this is the emotion that I feel when I'm feeling good and safe and I go with that. And then that helps me like think about like how's my communication style with this person, because sometimes if I'm not feeling safe, I'm a little hesitant, then maybe my communication is just a little bit more subtle, like I'm more observant, you know, and more casual about things. And you know, it could be that, or if I'm feeling really safe and secure, maybe it's a little bit more playful and I'm doing a little bit more risky communication, or I'm more bolder with the way that I communicate. And so that's really where I come from. I come from more of like, how am I feeling? Like, what emotions do I want to feel in this? So that's from the Philly people out there, maybe that aren't so cerebral, but that's like something that I've developed for myself based on just like emotions and my feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how
Yeah,
that changes what I'm hearing from you is like based on the person that you're with and how safe you
absolutely.
feel with them and what
Mhm.
kind of characteristics and traits they bring out in you as well.
Absolutely. And then how they, you know, what they respond with too makes a big difference in how they're responding. Because sometimes if you're just feeling really bold and, you know, just like being really vulnerable, it can feel a little risky for some. And maybe that's type of person you want to communicate with, somebody that's more bold and vulnerable and used to uncomfortable conversations. And if they're just not that person, like Leah said, like, man, it's time to go. Because then you're going to start teaching and guiding, and then you lose yourself, you know, in the whole gaining, you know, what kind of relationship this is going to be. So,
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for adding all that. I think it's really helpful and I'm trying to catch up on some of the things in the chat too. Panelists, were you kind of reading what's going on there, Lacey?
Just chatting away.
Yeah, people are bringing up kind of love bombing. And so, yeah, I think there's also this delicate balance between being direct and like, how do we maybe not come off too strong, quote unquote, at the front? Like someone saying, I wanted to follow up on love bombing comment earlier in dating. I experience this a lot. It's one thing to be interested in someone and let them know directly, but every day or every other day feels excessive to me. Maybe I just don't care for constant words of affirmation. And thanks for sharing that. And that was what came up for me in that last moment, Sasha, when you were talking, is like, that's kind of our personal work as individuals, is to figure out what we want and need, right? And what our communication style is, so that we can then tell people, hey, this is what I want and need. This is what works for me. Can you give it, right? And what do you need? And again, those languages might not be the same, but if we can kind of cross over to what people need and they can kind of give us what we need, then is there reciprocity, like Sasha was saying? Is there responsiveness? Is there reciprocity too? Like, we vibing. Yeah, good. Anything coming up for anyone else? Feel free to share in the chat or give me a raised hand feature. Otherwise, I think we're going to jump into the next question. Good stuff. All right. So the next question, this person had asked about in-person events by matchmaking services. So versus the non-monogamy events. Basically, I think what this person is asking about, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, because I know you're here and good to see you. Are you asking about advantages and disadvantages to matchmaking services versus non-monogamy events, versus ethical cruising? Like, what are the advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons of these different avenues for dating? Feel free to clarify for us in the chat if we're on the right track there. Okay, thank you for clarifying. So the question is, how do you manage apprehensive feelings before dating, basically, whether it's like matchmaking services or going to a non-monogamous event or going on a cruise, ethical cruising, which, that might involve, people who are dating and wanting to see casual sexual or romantic connections or encounters in public spaces. So again, this, looking into maybe the culture of something like this, but that's generally what happens there. So this person's really wondering, how do you manage the apprehensive feelings before those experiences?
I think that actually might be a response to Liana's comment about doing monthly check-ins specifically.
Oh,
I don't know if it's about the matchmaking / E&M events.
Yeah, you're
oh,
right.
thanks. Thanks for clarifying.
That's
Like that was a quick clarification. All right, well, I'm
cool.
going to go with the assumption of like what are the advantages and disadvantages to some of these things. And what's coming up for you folks with this? Yeah, Jerry, thanks.
Okay, so I wanted to share a little bit because the one part I connected with was the cruising. So I've only done one matchmaking, well, not matchmaking. It was kind of like where they where it's kind of like they bring up guys together and they see if they it's like the 15-minute kind of table dance that you kind of do. I did that one time, and it was okay years ago. Not speed dating, yeah, speed dating, not my thing. And the matchmaking service. So there's this guy. He does gay kind of matchmaking, and he does it on Instagram Live. And so you request to join in, or you ask him, and he has this great big following. And people can comment, and yeah, it's beautiful to think, right? But the gays can be very vicious. And if you don't look the part, baby, they will tear you up in the comments. And that is so heartbreaking to see because here you are thinking that and they're not like unattractive guys, they're just not everybody's cups of tea. And here you are putting yourself out there thinking that, you're just being nice and wanting to get kind of feedback and you're being shredded in the comments. And you're being and people are like being, nasty to you. I also seen this last guy who my friend dated who was a complete dickhead, a complete asshole, but he's fine. And of course, when he gets someone there, everybody's fawning over him. And I'm just kind of like, this guy's a complete jerk. But because he looks good, everybody's kind of like following up. And the last piece I want to get on is cruising. Cruising, no read, no shade, no pink lemonade. You got to get what you get. Because sometimes cruising is very, very disheartening. It's very shallow because it's based on what you look like or based on what you have, whether it's the front or the back or a combination of the two. And if you don't fit the bill based on those things, they're not going to cruise you. And so sometimes you have to have thick skin because not everybody's going to be everybody's kind of type. So I don't want to say having thick skin, but knowing if you are like, I know that I'm an emotional person. I cruise, but I also think I'm fine. So I usually get what I want. But I also have been denied before, and I know that that feels dehumanizing how someone tells you no. So like I've had to take my breaks in times without doing that. I've been celibate for a year now, but like when I was doing those things, I was not like you kind of have to go with the plan of am I going to get what I want?
Yeah, and Jerry, like, would you, from having experienced that, recommend to this person, like, is it kind of doing your research, like seeing if the culture, evaluating the kind of the culture of the place, or what would your like, how can you someone prepare for it, kind of?
Preparing for it is one, going emotionally knowing that you are not going to be everybody's cup of tea. What I have seen and what I won't encourage, but it does work when you're going cruising specifically, you lead with your gift in a way. Masking is a big thing. So a lot of people put mask on their face, and that's a big thing. And so that's not always a decipher. But if you got an anaconda, that's what you show first because that's going to get you what you want. If you have a nice booty, you show that first because that's what you like. Unfortunately, I think for the gay world, it's heavily led on sex. So if you have, even if you don't fit the bill, what I look like, if you have the equipment that I want, then I can bypass a lot of the other things that I'm not seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe for folks like checking in with their intentions and what they're looking
Mhm.
for. Does this culture and experience align with what I'm looking for? I see some hands, and also James, I want to get to your kind of add-on comment too about the superficiality and connection to dating apps as well. I saw Wayne a hand, and then Leah.
Yeah, so I'm a pivot a little bit, because I was just going, I wanted to add in there, like, for me, like, I think I know what world we live in, I know technology and everything. I think dating apps is rough. You get what it's kind of like rolling the dice. You kind of like you get what you get, kind of, right? Because most people are not going to come in there as their authentic self. So I love the wild. You know why I love the wild? Because you get to observe people. You get to see their mannerisms. You get to see if they're nice to other people. You get to so many things that you get to observe when you're out in the wild and you see somebody you're attracted to, whatever. And it's so crazy because longest relationships have been the people I've met out and about, and I've got to watch them and see how they are. And I get to approach them based off of how I perceive them to be in the interaction that I see them having, And so, again, I just want to say that real quick. I think that, we need to get back to, a level of going outside and having our discernment because we can trust our own instincts, better when we're out and about and meeting people opposed to seeing somebody on the screen and what they look like. Because you're absolutely correct. It's very superficial online. We're swiping the swipe cultures. If I'm attracted to somebody, we don't really, most people not reading bios, so we don't really care. It's just if I'm attracted to this person, we don't know what this person about. We just care what they look like and whatever. And so I think that, going out and about, I think it just offers something different, and because of the world we're in, I say, try something new. We've been trying this dating apps things for a while and get back to going outside.
Yeah, and maybe bringing a friend to something like that would be neat too. Just having a buddy or a pal if it's your first time. And regardless of the outcome, you can still have fun with your friends too. Leah, Sasha, yeah.
The only thing I wanted to add to this was if your online dating is completely different because you're not having apprehension, because the word is apprehension. I'm like, I'm apprehensive, I'm scared, I'm worried, I'm anxious. Though that's what the question is really. I'm trying to like zoom in on that question. I would say a lot of self-talk before you go to an event, maybe it's a new outfit, maybe it's, what, no matter who you meet, you know, you're valid, you're dateable, you're lovable, you're likable, like kind of give yourself to get out of the apprehension, to get out of that state of like, what if nobody likes me, what if I'm wasting my time, what if I'm going, go have fun, meet people. You never know, you can meet your next best friend. Maybe it's not a romantic connection, maybe you network, maybe you meet, like, don't go so much for like, I'm trying to find my soulmate. Stop doing that shit. Stop doing that shit. Like, please stop doing it. It's not this one thing to fulfill all your needs and you're gonna meet them, it's gonna be great. And it's like, no, you meet people, you see them, you hang out with them, do you get along? Just because y'all both like hot potato soup, that don't mean y'all gonna get married. Like, can we stop putting so much on, oh, we have this in common, oh, we both went to elementary school, well, didn't we all go to elementary? Like, stop with the fuckery. That's what I'm gonna say. Like, build yourself up, go see what you get. It's almost like going into a library. Like, you're going in there to find a book that you want to read. You don't know what the hell you want to read, if you're for sci-fi, so it's that kind of like, just go into it open, have fun, and that's about it. You're not going home like, this is gonna be my husband, this is gonna be my wife. Like, stop
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like
yeah,
managing your expectations, and also how can I create pleasure and an experience for myself? And, whether it's getting dressed or the positive self-talk, right? Like, how can this be an experience for me that no matter the
Right.
outcome, like I can either learn something about myself, enjoy myself, and have that open-mindedness again for closeness and connection or friendship beyond finding the one. Absolutely, which can create a lot of disappointment and feelings of
Yep.
helplessness. Absolutely. Sasha, what's coming up for you? And then James. Yeah, good. Okay. Sasha, was there anything else? Are you guys
Okay, yeah.
good
I was
there?
just gonna, I mean, Leah said a lot, but when I'm
Yeah.
thinking and that whole like, I found love on a two-way street and lost it on a lonely highway, like that is a big part of it. Like having all of these like expectations for that person to have, like give reciprocity and give the same kind of love and vibe that you're giving. Like yeah, you gotta, but
Yeah.
you're gonna lose it. You're gonna be lonely because a lot of times, like you're going to feel like lonely and lost and betrayed and all of those things, like, because you have unmet needs, but you're expecting that person to give the same kind of vibe and feeling, and that's not how it works. So that's like one of my songs because it happened to me before. Like I have those expectations and I come in thinking like I want this person to feel the same way and do the same, think the same, and have the same, be on the same escalator that I'm on all the time, and I will be lonely on that highway by myself because
Yeah.
it's not realistic. Yeah, so
Thank you.
I second
Thank
that,
you.
Leah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks to everyone. We're going to transition to the next question. This person had asked, they want to know about the different types of poly relationships as someone who is more inclined towards monogamy. So, looking for a little education around the different types of poly relationships.
Okay, do I just need to answer this?
Poly 101 classes in
So
session. Go
many of
ahead,
us
Leah.
could
Who
kind of
wants to
use you.
jump in? We
That's
have James. Do you want to hop in?
question.
Whoever wants to hop in on this. Yeah.
I'll give.
For well, James, are you gonna break it down?
I'll break one down.
Awesome.
I think if that's
Thanks,
okay.
James.
And then because I think we can all have something to contribute here. Like I think for me, because I am the reason why I think this kind of resonated with me is because I am a little bit more monogamy leaning, like monogamish. Like I like to have like one person that I'm like sharing my life with, and then we have our extracurricular activities outside of that relationship. But it's so I call it monogamish, and that's like one type of relationship. I know other people call it an open relationship too. But it's also a hard relationship structure to have, right? Because for a lot of people with sex comes feelings. And so you might have this one person that you want to hold emotions with. But when you're having sex with other people, sometimes you might have sex with somebody that you like, and then it develops into something polyamorous. So, but yeah, that's all I wanted to say. But
Yeah, no, and that the term monogamish, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is termed by Dan Savage, who's a sex columnist. So that is one form of polyamory, and you can be more monogamish, right, where you have one more primary or anchor partner. Depends if we're more hierarchical, non-hierarchical, right? And then it sounds like having other, playmates outside of that or sexual experiences that you may or may not engage in together or separately. Yeah, Jerry, Sasha, Wayne.
I
You
would
can go ahead, Wayne, because I know you're probably going to say a lot of the similar things I'm going to say.
No. I was gonna say,
Let you
again,
say.
like I think that we get caught up in titles and in labels. I think that you have to research what fits for you. Because open relationship means different things for different people, right? You have open, you have don't ask, don't tell, you have monogamous, you have uh you have monopoly, you have swinger, you have so many different types of relationships. So I would suggest doing the research and kind of seeing what feels right for you, what leaning, so because we can go through, there's so many different terms at this point now, right? And so we can go through the whole list, but again, just kind of looking for yourself and kind of going and researching and listening to people that kind of like resonate with you. I would say would be the my best advice for you to kind of figure out what works for you and what labels actually, because again, there's so many different people have different meanings for different labels.
That's really helpful, Wayne. Thanks for adding that. Leah, what was coming up for you?
Oh, I had muted myself. Okay. Yes, we have a lot. We have I mean, you have solo poly, you also have, all the labels of everything. But if you're monogamous trying to convert, or you're like poly curious, like those kinds of things, you have to really start playing the game of, well, how would I feel if I was in that position? How would I feel if it? Well, am I going to be jealous because of this? Like, can I handle, what is compersion? Like, I've never even heard of that. Like, you'll hear a lot of these terms in the poly world. So it just depends on where you're going with it. There's, thruples and triads, and, there are like monopoly relationships. There's people that are like super polyamorous, and then some that are way more, just kind of, they have one or two partners maximum. And then you have people that have one, maybe they have a live-in and then they date multiple people, like whatever they want. Every relationship has different rules, guidelines, boundaries. It gets crazy in there. So you really need to define things with whoever you're talking to, um, and making it known what polyamory is, and doing your best to try to communicate that. And they're still going to go through their feelings of jealousy and disappointment and be discouraged. And they're going to know, like, what are we? Like, what are we? It's like we are who we are. Like, it's not titles. I think in the world of polyamory, you learn to not hold on so much to, I'm a girlfriend, I'm a fiance, I'm your significant other. Like, if we can get away from a lot of the labels and titles and enjoy who we're with, and if it develops into something more, if people are signing powers of attorney, then so be it. But you know, like we got to start kind of and work our way up. So that's all I want to say. There's so many categories now. It's out of control. You got the unicorns, you know, and then the unicorns are revolting. They're on strike from the couples. The couples are mad they can't find a unicorn. You know, it's it's a lot going on in the poly world and the swinging world. That's a whole nother
Right.
element of it too.
And what you were sharing was echoing, I think, what Wayne had said too, is like the importance of conducting your own research, finding the right labels, terms, structures that work for you, and also recognizing that not everyone is going to share those. Leah, from you, I'm hearing maybe, there's space for some people, and this does work, is like getting rid of the labels, right? And moving into more of that anarchy in relationships. And for others, right, labels will be really important too. So it just depends. I'm curious, Lacey, what's coming up for you, and Sasha?
Yeah. Um, I think there, as much as I agree with like all of our philosophical, it's all about what you want to make it. When you're coming into it, like it is really important to have like some core definitions. Like polyamory is being able to have multiple loving relationships with multiple people, which is not the same as swinging, or not the same as just having an open relationship that may or may not allow for falling in love with other people. And then like under polyamory, like there are some like common terms to know, like kitchen table polyamory, where everybody knows each other. They're not necessarily all dating, but they all like have friendships and connections with each other. There's like parallel polyamory where, if you have like a hinge who's dating two people, they may not talk to each other or have really any like insight into each other's lives. There's varying levels of entanglement between, and there's kind of something in between those two called garden party, where people have a little bit more like flexibility and more like, coming to the table, not necessarily dining at it together every night. So like when someone was asking about the different like flavors of polyamorous relationships, like that's kind of where my head went. But like you do have to kind of level set of like, oh, like, so you practice solo polyamory. Does that mean you just don't want a nesting partner? Or does it mean that you're a fuck boy and you just don't want commitment? Or does it mean that like you only want casual but still intentional relationships? I'll see if I can grab like a link to share, because like there's so much.
Yeah, developing that language for yourself to be able to articulate again your desires, what you're looking for, and also develop that shared language with your partner or partners. Yeah, Sasha, what else would you add to that? And we'll transition to the next
Yeah,
question.
to add and just kind of tie that in, I always say like I'm just kind of that proud, like Sex in the City 50 plus. And so when I was practicing non-monogamy, there were virtually no labels to it. That's why Dan Savage is kind of in my age range and he was creating these labels. So I have to tell people that I was extremely successful, found the love of my life, that we were both non-monogamous and we worked out things without all of those labels. Like coming into it when they all started to like flood the community, I was just like, oh, whatever. But but going back to Lacey, it was very helpful because then I was able to kind of like find my little tribes a little easier, so what, just tying that in, I have to say, like, to some of the younger, you know, people in non-monogamy, like, there was a whole generation that was super successful without all of these labels. Like, we made it work with a lot of good communication, with like finding our community and being kind of in that collective. And then we kind of just created our own language for it. And so I say sometimes don't get so caught up in it, but they are very useful because I have found them useful to kind of just find my community, really what it is. And then we can base like how we operate within ourselves. So
Yeah, thank you so much. Hope we answered that question adequately. For the person who asked it, feel free to elaborate in the chat if not. I'm looking at the time here. We've got about 8 minutes. Yeah, the next question, let's go to our next question here, folks. This person had asked, what needs to happen on a first date in order to lock in a second date? So what needs to happen on a first date in order to lock in a second date? What's coming up for you all around this? Any thoughts? Hands up, raise hands. Wayne, what are you thinking?
I love these kind of questions because it's like if
Jerry,
there if there is just one sure way,
Jerry
can you
said
give it?
sex in the chat. Maybe not for
Right.
everyone, but
Right.
oh.
Yeah. No, it's just like if there's just one sure way that you guys can give me so I can shortcut all the other things is, you
I
can't,
know.
there's no one way for anything, right? I always suggest, I love, and James brought it, I love a coffee date. You know what I'm saying? Because I get to, now there's no expectations. I'm not spending a lot of money. We're not spending a lot of time. We don't have to do all these things to get, man, I get to come and talk to you and we can have a conversation to even let us know if we even like each other. And so if we like each other, then we can decide if we want to hang out again. But let's see if we even like each other. Let's go to a space and let me see you who you are, and let's have this conversation so we can ask a lot of questions and all the things. Like, yeah, I think that's how I get it. That's how I decide if I want a second date or not. Not even if I'm gonna get a second date. If I'm deciding if I even want to date you again or see you again, right within that time frame that we're having. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's helpful to keep that first date maybe like lower, like more informal, lower pressure, maybe not for as long. We don't have to do a three-course dinner or maybe stuck with the person at that table for 3 hours, right? But like an hour coffee date, feeling it out. Other people are sharing. It's important for them to feel safe and at ease as well. Other people that are demi are saying, "Hey, there's no way I could have sex on that first date without the question, without the connection, no matter how thirsty I am." Yeah. Sasha, what's coming up for you? Jerry?
I was just kind of taking like a little bit more of feminist role on this, and I think that more women should kind of take from the men's playbook and put themselves first in 2026. Like, don't abandon yourself, because a lot of times men are just kind of conditioned to just like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and put myself first in what I want. I want sex, I want this, I want that. That's so it's just like conditioned and easy for them to just kind of put their needs first and put it out there. And so for women or people that aren't used to that, maybe this is the year that you kind of take from that playbook and put yourself first. Don't abandon yourself and, try to not develop that relationship, within your life. You're more so developing it for you, not for it to
Yeah.
fit in your life, but you're developing it for you.
And what
So,
I heard from you too is like letting go of the traditional like gender norms and
oh,
scripts of who's
absolutely
supposed to
rebel,
initiate or
rebel
ask
against
who
all of that
first,
traditional
and
common culture. Yeah, rebel. It's
yeah.
rebellion time right now.
Yeah, good. Jerry, yeah, what were you thinking?
I was I was going to say like yeah I enjoy spending time like walking. The sex thing is kind of a joke, but not really. But like I've learned that spending time and walking and talking is better because I've gone on a date with a guy and before the appetizers came out, I was like I do not want to talk to this guy anymore. And we still had the meal to come out. So yeah, definitely do not sit down. Go to get some coffee, take a walk, 15 minutes, and then you can figure out what's next. And the second date should always be something active, not sitting down to eat because why?
And what are the benefits to the active date? What do you like about that, or what do you think is
I
helpful for
think
folks?
I think it's fun and it gives you something to talk about. Like even if you're going to the library, it automatically gives you something to talk about. And so it's a good time. I like going to the library. I like reading books. I used to like going to Target, which I can't do that anymore.
No, I like the idea of walking too, being outside and like kind of being next to each other, and you can make occasional eye contact for folks. And again, for people who are neurodivergent, that might be helpful to be in motion or moving too. Sasha, what's up for you? What are you thinking? People are saying
I
so
was just
done with dinner, so done with
I
breakfast in the
know.
chat.
I was just saying what Jerry was saying. Like, there was I don't know if this is old school, but it's like a lot of times you already know right away, probably by the time you're talking to that person, if you really want to have sex with them in the first place, like, listening to your intuition is like a thing. So you already know by that first date. I promise you, most likely, whether you want to, how you want to engage with that person and then move in that direction. Like I feel like sometimes we kind of give too many chances, like that whole abandoning ourselves. Like we just like, oh, maybe it was me. Maybe I like, like you already know, like start to just work on trusting your intuition and not abandoning yourself and your desires. Because, Jerry said
Hmm.
it right. You already know, continue the
Yeah.
the dinner or the whatever with that's why you just get coffee.
Yeah, and people are saying like they're grumpy in the morning sometimes, and even thinking about accessibility needs. So yeah, what time of day is going to work for you? Is the place you're going to accessible for people that you're meeting or for yourself as well? And With what you just shared, Sasha, I think at the beginning, and a lot of people were sharing, right, those words and phrases in the chat, like about frustration and helplessness and just the exhaustion of dating. And also, I think we heard from a lot of you today and from all of us, like that room for the possibility, the room for self growth and self awareness as well, learning more about your needs, your boundaries. So we have about 2 minutes, and I'd like to just kind of ask panelists like for some final parting words or thoughts or advice for our guests, like when it comes to dating. So some other questions we haven't answered. If you have some quick advice, there's how does someone know when they're ready to date? So if anyone had something to speak to there and or any other just parting words of advice before we wrap up here. Yeah, Leah. Thanks.
Okay, because I keep like it keeps cutting me in and out. But the one thing I wanted to say is let's be direct and honest with ourselves. If the person that you're dating does things you know you cannot tolerate, let them go. Okay? It's like keeping old broth in the bag in the fridge, hoping it's not going to go bad. It's going to go bad. If you can't stand, so if they have like oral hygiene issues, and come on, guys. Like, we can't keep holding on to people that it's just not going to work. Like, if they chew, with their mouth open, and it's like these pet peeves, and we keep trying to work past them or anything, like, just please, like, move on. It will sour. It will annoy you, so kind of know what you can put up with. We'll say that.
Yeah, and reminding people they have the agency and autonomy to remove themselves from
Right.
situations or relationships they're not interested in, to say no, absolutely, and that's an important part of the process as well, too. Kindly and gently as well, hopefully, along the process. Yeah, like, Jesus Christ, your breath, right? James, what's coming up for you towards the end here? James, you're muted, huh? Yep.
Thank you. I was just gonna say, yeah, and this is advice I need to take too. And it's just like be patient because I don't know if it's like it's hard for women, hetero-leaning women as it is for hetero-leaning men because I'm a hetero-leaning man. But sometimes I'm very impatient. I'm like, dang, how do I find somebody that's like aligned with me, but also non-monogamous? And it could take forever. But I have to remind myself that, we are already a niche community. And so finding somebody non-monogamous is already hard enough, but you've got the added layer of finding somebody who's aligned with you as well. So I guess we all just need to be patient. I think so. I don't know.
That patience is important. Thanks for adding that. Absolutely. Yeah. Wayne, what would you share?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, add in that, yeah, I just like to ask, again, I like to be curious. I ask people questions like, where are we getting this information of what we like or who we like? Where's this coming from? What is it? What is our type? Maybe our type is what everybody else's type is. Maybe we get our type through social media and all these different other things that everybody else feel is attractive or what they want and desire. I think like, man, go places that you enjoy going, that you enjoy doing. Go somewhere, something that you enjoy doing, go there. Maybe you can meet somebody, again, just rethinking and breaking the wheel of what is expected, or how we see things, right? Just trying something different, stepping outside your comfort zone, stepping outside your norm. You'll be surprised at what you would find, outside of the normal spaces that you tend to go look. Everybody looking at space. Everybody at the same place you at, looking for the same thing, and now you're all in competition, competing against one another to get this one thing. And how's that worked out so far? Again, just try something new. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that co-creation, the curiosity, the open-mindedness, absolutely remembering to have fun. And also, I see one more hand from Sasha who will wrap us up. And guests, feel free to share something in the chat that resonated with you, or word or phrase you're feeling, or something you learned from the chat while Sasha wraps us up today.
Wraps it up. Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's fitting because one thing that I have learned throughout my years is community, like building a community around like what you want for yourself in your all your relationships, your friendships. And so things like this, like what we're doing today, like if these, any of us resonate with you, we all have our own like community we belong to, kind of a collective here as well. And just like seeking out communities that are in alignment with what you want for yourself and your relationships. For me, that's like the best advice. Do you have it here? You found it. and all
Thank
these
you
guests.
so
So, and
much.
thank you, Jamie, for putting it together.
We love building this community. We love
Yeah.
gathering with you all every month. So thank you all for just coming here every month, showing up. Wayne, what's coming up for you?
Really quick. Hey, date your friends. If you look, you like your friends, they're amazing, right? They're so dope. Your person might be so close to you. Date your friend who's looking out for you, who's there for you all the time, who's checked in on
I
you,
love
like date your friend. How about that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
listen. I
We're
love
here to
that.
we're here to remind you to break some rules and, throw out the scripts and expectations and have fun along the way too. And there's tons of possibility out there for not only self-discovery, but as Sasha just said and others have said all along the way, connection and community. So thank you guys so much for being here. We'll be back next month, Tuesday, February 17th, same time, same place, to delve into sexual communication, talking about flirting, dirty talk, STI disclosure, safer sex practices, and how to move into more direct, empowered, and shame-free communication and better sex and intimacy in your life. So thanks so much for being here. Until next time.